I got to schedule like 20 beat uploads because I upload 2 beats a day plus content. Plus I upload it to BeatStars and Audio Mac and Rap Chat and all these other platforms. That's my career. I'm not going to sit here and complain. I set myself up for this. You know what I mean? I didn't even tell you what I wanted to talk about. What's going down? Good morning. It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. You don't have to consume our podcast in the morning. My name is DJ Payne One. I'm joined by Dame Ritter and Aaron Knight. We're all in colorful hoodies today, and we definitely did coordinate it late last night. We're live twice a week with our free music business mentorship program as well, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mondays and Thursdays on beatstars.live. So we got a lot of Kanye stuff to talk about. Oh, yeah. Real quick, I definitely don't want to talk about this because I don't know much about it, but maybe the two of you do. Did you hear about, remember we talked about the possibility of Kanye going independent for his next release? I read something in passing about him getting $100 million offer through some distributor. Aaron knows what I'm talking about.
It was like an Apple deal.
Apple, yeah.
Supposedly.
It was for, I think, exclusive rights to the Sunday service streams not Sunday service, the Donda 2 streams, video streaming, exclusively Donda 2. And then also, I think, an early release, similar to how Chance did Coloring Book on Apple. So I think it was like a 1 week exclusive or something like that.
So he turned that down. So I guess let's just launch into that topic because I know that was Aaron's topic about it, his stem player, because he turned that down to do his stem player, right? You want to kind of fill people in.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics. I saw some of his posts, but I also don't follow him on social media. So I don't know exactly what it was about. So I don't want to speak on the deal like it's just like public knowledge. Maybe there is an article out. I didn't read it. I just saw a lot of conversation around it. So it does look like he's made the move to being independent. He said no to Apple. He felt disrespected somehow by the deal. I'm not exactly sure, but has decided to go independent. And his independent route is to release Donda 2 on stem player and apparently all of his future albums. I would have actually thought that this was cool if the stem player was, and it doesn't have to be an NFT because I get that he said he's not going to do an NFT, but he's really close to doing an NFT. I don't know if he realizes that, but if the stem player gave you access to all of his future releases or future releases for the next maybe 4 years or something like that, I think I would find that fascinating. But the stem player is $200 and it is only 8 gigabytes. And they give you the stems to Donda 1 and 2 on it. That's it. That's like vocal track, like full track and acoustic. And then you can break those out into the drums, all the sounds. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't think there's a resale value for these stem players because he's going to keep selling them. So I think that's going to ward off Hypebeast. So apparently he's moved $3 million worth of units so far since he announced the stem player. And he moved another $1 million worth of units since he announced that Donda 2 is the only way you can get it is on there. So I don't think this is a financial move for him. And I'll say that because I think it's an overall financial move, but I think this is very big for him about ownership and him being able to do what he pleases with his intellectual property. It's neither here nor there if this is a sound decision, but I respect the move that he's trying to make because it's causing a lot of people, especially against the landscape of people taking their music off of Spotify, and now you have, it was more legacy artists doing things like that. And now you have a current artist who's dropping major music doing something. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I don't have a conclusive thought about it, but I wonder how long it'll subsist. I'm wondering if he's going to be super meta. This is to me the equivalent of requiring everybody to buy a CD. So I supported the notion, but $200 makes it inaccessible to, I think, the average consumer, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's an interesting way to move about, but I think it's a cool play. I'm not saying that I'm fully against it or for it, but I respect it as a very cool play.
Well, how much do the sneakers cost? More than 200, right?
Yeah, I mean, so he's used to selling product for a high amount and selling a lot. You know, people will buy it. I need to see what this thing is. Like, it doesn't sound like it's something that I would buy. Like, you know, maybe a producer might find it fun to kind of play around with the sounds. Like, I just want to hear the music as is. Like, I don't care to detach the drums and see what that sounds like, or to play an a cappella version. Like, I wouldn't care about any of that. So, you know, if this become, like, let's just say this became a product that was, you know, in high demand, then it's a great play, because you're essentially building another company. You know, if this became the next iPod, for example, it doesn't seem like that is it. Although I haven't played with it, and I don't really have an interest to, not because I'm not a Kanye fan anymore, but because it just doesn't sound like an interesting thing to me. So I'm not his target audience, I don't think. But yeah, to turn down 100 million and then to only do, you know, would you say 4 million in sales? It doesn't sound like a smart financial move, unless this turns into a big company and people start buying these things. And you know, it goes back to the conversation that I always have. It's like, you know, yeah, you want ownership, but it's like he could have taken $100 million and bought something that he owns versus owning.
But he doesn't need the money, though.
But but I understand that's Kanye. But just in terms of looking at this decision for the people that are listening to this podcast, is like, if you don't need the money, you're just making a statement, then just do whatever the hell you want. But like, if we're trying to figure out, you know, is this a good money play for me or for other people? Maybe you're in a similar situation, obviously not at this level, but you're making a similar situation with a label offer or something like that. You know,
well, I mean, realistically, what album recently has been successful without the artist making some kind of statement, either with the way it was released or with something that doesn't necessarily have to do with the music, something surrounding the release?
Wait, say that again. What?
I just feel like that's kind of, if you're going to drop a super successful album these days, you probably have some kind of, I don't want to say gimmick, but there's some kind of added story beyond just, oh my God, there's a new album from Kanye, or there's a new album from Drake. There's got to be something surrounding it. And thankfully, I would say this isn't controversial. This isn't, you know, Kanye's always surrounded by controversy, but I don't think that's what's selling this album. And I'll tell you why I think the stem play. I don't know if the stem player thing is going to work for other artists necessarily. I think it can work for him. One, because I'm sure his fan base it includes quite a few producers, whether they're hobbyists or professionals. So that would appeal to them. You know, producers are used to spending $200 on stuff, because our careers are expensive. But also, it also might be like a gateway drug for people who don't produce. They're like, oh my God, this is such a novelty, just being able to control Kanye's voice, because it's kind of surreal. I mean, it is. No artist at that level has given away that experience willingly, at least. But think about all the content that can be created from the stem player potentially. There's just going to be a flood of Donda 2 content, which I think is probably a good strategy. Think about all the YouTube videos that people make that are like such and such a song bass boosted version, or such and such a song, but the snare is all you hear. Just kind of dumb little memes, sort of remixes of songs that do really well and that add to the overall allure and popularity and longevity of a project. So I think if anyone is going to do it, it's going to be somebody like him who can handle the risk of it not necessarily being a moneymaker because he's already obscenely rich. And so that's not really the goal.
Yeah, I mean, you could do the same thing by just releasing the stems, right? Like to get people to do that. To me, it all just depends on how cool this device is. Like if it's a cool device, if it's the new Beat headphones, if it's the new iPod, if it's if he can make it that, then this is a huge win because you eventually can sell this company for a lot, probably a lot more than 100 million.
I think it'll appeal to artists because we're in the era of the viral TikTok remix also.
Yeah. I think a lot of producers, if they're smart, will take it and run with it, like Payne said, making their own thing so that people are like, oh, yo, this is what you did with like Kanye assets, so to speak. But I do think that if he's really doubling down, I think a lot of people are going to wait to see if it's really not going to come out. And if it does it, like if he sells even just to 100,000 people, that's $20 million, that he doesn't have to wait for, that nobody's getting a cut of. I think that the issue, though, again, I get that. I think there's people who have Yeezys who have never listened to all of Yeezus. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's the same to say that, oh, he's got people buying into him at a high dollar because music is different. I think the value for him is owning the intellectual property and, again, making a bigger statement than the money, because he's always done the long play. I think that's something that even the doc, I know we're not going to get into that, shows, is that he was dedicated to the long play. He's married to the vision of where it could be, not where it's at right now. And I think that's also it's his blessing, but it's what a lot of people don't like about him. It's like, this doesn't make sense. But if we look at the things that he's done in the past, I feel like it makes sense in the future to a degree. So who's to say if it's a good move? I'm not going to sit here and be like, this is the best business thing ever. I don't see it having a future utility unless it can open to a broader audience. But I think that could be what he does. He may say, Mike Dean is going to load unreleased beats on here, or, you know what I'm saying? I think something like that. The exclusivity of it right now, I think, is going to be helpful, but the price point is what makes it difficult. So I think he's going to have to up the exclusivity or what he's offering. But I think FOMO is going to get a ton of people. He's going to sell 100,000 just off of FOMO, just because people want to, like, hype beasts like to show that they have money. The super fans are going to want to hear it from themselves, not from a ripped version on the internet. It does have Bluetooth capabilities. I looked into that too, because I'm like, I'm not about to carry this little thing around and be listening to the album on here. But I don't know. I think it's an interesting play. I think I really want to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm not as interested. 100,000. I'd be surprised if it gets to 100. I would be surprised if it gets to 100,000. I mean, typically most sales come out the gate, and I guess it just depends on, again, the review of the product and the review of the music to see if people really buy into this. So let's see what people are saying on Twitter, and that will encourage or discourage people from buying or not buying. But does the stuff, like, if he wanted to put new stuff on there, does it just automatically get put on there? Like,
that's a good question.
No. I was looking at the frequently asked questions, and I was just wondering, I don't know, there's not a lot of room, because you get Donda 1 and 2, because, he released them during Donda, like when Donda first came out. So some people bought them. Then he had 2 million in sales already. So, or 3 million, and he did another one. But so I don't know, 8 gigs doesn't give you room to do anything. That's the issue.
Right. And also, like, obviously that's not, however many $1 million in sales. I don't know who's involved in making. Obviously, Kanye doesn't make this himself, so that's not like just pure profit. I don't know who his partner is in this or who makes these things. I'd be interested to know, like, how much does he make from each?
Probably a lot, though. Them little things, They probably don't cost.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't. But like, what does the deal that he have with the company that makes him, or like, a lot still needs to be seen from this. I'm not buying one. I don't know if you guys are buying one, but if you guys buy
Somebody
one,
wants to buy me a stem player. DM me. I'll take it.
we could do a product review on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Or if Kanye wants to send us one to do a review, that's
Right.
cool. Have your people call out people.
What's dope is it's just really simple technology. It's not something that really pushes the envelope of what tech can do. This is just basically you having a really simplified mixing board on your phone. That's really kind of it. So
that's what makes it dope.
I think so, because it's not it like, why hasn't anyone else done this? And maybe people have. I know that there was something similar to this years ago. It interfaced, I want to say it interfaced with Serato and some other programs where they were releasing stems and it just didn't catch on. Maybe it caught on a little in the EDM world, but I don't think artists and labels are willing to just let go of their stems like that.
I'm willing to reserve my judgment, but this to me is like leaning towards, I know Aaron thinks Kanye is a marketing genius. Everything he does is just.
I just said it was dope. I used the deep word.
This actually helps my point.
I didn't say everything he does is dope. I respect him and I think he's a genius.
So my opinion is that once you get to a level like Kanye, like you can do anything and make it seem amazing, right? Because if some Joe Smo, the artist, came out with this idea, we'd be looking at it like, what the hell? Like, that's stupid, probably like, it's stupid. But because Kanye's doing it, but I'll reserve judgment until I get all the information and see how these things move. Because again, if it starts moving a lot of these things, that company can be worth a shitload of money. But I just don't see it.
Well, I think the company could be worth a lot of money regardless if you just, once Kanye does it, how many other artists want to do it? It's like Beyonce with the surprise albums or the music video albums. How many artists duplicated that model immediately after? A whole lot. How many of them were successful like Beyonce? None. So
was she the first person to do a surprise album or a video album?
I don't know, but it's someone like Beyonce, and Beyonce's part of the whole, Jay-Z Illuminati, Beyonce Illuminati, and Kanye's in that circle. So, when you're at that level, you influence people to make certain decisions that aren't necessarily going to be beneficial for their careers.
We'll see. So I have a topic. I wasn't familiar with this artist. Damn, and I still have it on my page. It's an artist named Ghastly. He was basically talking about like the social media burnout, kind of the frustrations of being an artist today. It's a pretty long post, but I feel like I should read at least most of it. There's four kind of pictures from a note that he took screenshots from.
As long as he's not accusing you of stealing his masters, I think we'll be fine.
No, he's not. I don't know this cat. But he seems to be a pretty popular artist. I checked him out on Spotify. I think he's close to 500,000 monthly listeners. So yeah, he seems to be doing his thing. But he says the current music industry culture as a whole is in a very confusing place. It feels as though artistry has been shifted from genuine expression and creating sounds that express what words cannot to hacking the algorithm. This approach ceases the intent of being genuine, as the main focus is always numbers and engagement over quality and creativity. I was working on a song with someone recently who asked me if I could make the beat more TikTok-y, and it made me feel dirty just to read it. It's no wonder so many new artists are struggling to develop a following. The pace at which they are now required to pump out content is inhuman and unrealistic, given the modern attention span is less than a goldfish. I feel for the new artists truly, because musical success has become inflationary, whereas a viral song could do you wonders just a few years ago. But now, well, that's a great song you have there, but I need you to give me a reason why I should care about you. What are your thoughts? Who are you dating? Do you make entertaining content? Are you following the trends? And the worst part is if you decide to live in the real world and choose not to post for a while, the automatic assumption is that you are depressed or going through it, which the contrary is true, because the less I focus on my phone, the more creative and alive I feel. I want to be able to share my life at a level that makes sense to me as an artist and as a human. I love to make sketches, tell stories, create ridiculous edits / memes, and even the occasional YouTube video. But the anxiety of having daunting to-do lists, hundreds of unread emails, deadlines, due dates, logistical issues, video, photo shoots, daily meetings, and an ever increasingly cutthroat flash in the pan media marketing bonanza can absolutely drain an artist to their lowest levels. I needed to get this off my chest because I know I can't be the only one feeling this way. I simply want to open up the idea that maybe we should change the way we view this whole social media landscape, to rearrange what we value, not only as creators, but as listeners, to actually close our eyes, take our time, and listen to the music, and let the magic it's capable of take place without the never-ending urgency to find a song that's even better. To replace this musical FOMO with an attentive and a patient ear that allows artists to express themselves openly and without any requirements outside of what their soul is willing and comfortable to share. That's all I got. Peace and love, G. Said a lot.
Okay. This man said that people's attention spans are like goldfish, but then wrote this long ass post. What? I was getting tired of listening to you read it.
But it got like 8,000 likes and like 4,000 or 5,000 reshares. So people,
I guarantee you 7,000 of those people didn't read the whole thing. They were just like, yeah, I like this. What?
Or didn't understand it. I mean, that's always, oh God. I never want to silence anyone from airing their grievances or talking about their feelings and emotions. What we as humans tend to do, especially as artists and creatives, we dramatize them, number one, because they're more interesting, and our brains just work that way. We're dramatic people. If you know me, I'm one of the most dramatic. As deadpan as I am, everything that comes out of my artist filter and out of my mouth is dramatized. It's just, that's how it is. But we also generalize and we apply our experiences to the broader world. And I think, who was the artist? She had a similar rant about TikTok, and I forget her name, and I'm sorry. Similar rant about cultural shifts in music and how cheap music is and the stresses that the modern day artist is under. That's how she's feeling. This is how Ghastly's feeling. Does this mean that today the average artist is under immense pressure and stress compared to 50 years ago? No. It means that this artist in particular, with their career and with the way that they've set up their careers and with the way they've set up their brands, they're under stress. I'm under stress right now because I upload content every single day. And so I have to go to another country. I don't have the same access to the resources I have where I am right now in my studio. So yeah, I'm stressed out because I gotta schedule like 20 beat uploads because I upload 2 beats a day plus content, plus I upload it to BeatStars and Audio Mac and Rapchat and all these other platforms. So I do a lot, and that's my career. I'm not gonna sit here and complain that I'm busy because I'm stressed out. I set myself up for this, you know what I mean? And when I step back from my life and look at it, I'm like, wow, I'm doing well. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Yeah, when something negative happens, you know, we come on the podcast and talk about how to avoid these situations, or I'll post a tweet and like, this PayPal chargeback happened. This is what I did. This is why it's frustrating. This is what I hope can change. Some things are universal, but my stress isn't necessarily universal. My own experiences aren't necessarily universal. And when consumers and fans read these rants, they automatically they start doing the generalization as well, even further. Like, I read what Ghastly said. He already generalized and said basically all modern day artists are going through this. They're not. He is, and that's valid for him to speak on. But then the fans look at that and they say, okay, everyone's going through this. So now they're going to look at all artists as victims of the culture. And I think that begets a lot of other problems that I don't even want to get into. Like, you know, you assume every artist is depressed or every artist is struggling with content. Every artist hates TikTok. Everybody, you know, whatever. And then the whole, like, I just want to focus on the sentence he said where an artist said, make this beat more TikTok-y or TikTok friendly or whatever. I mean, and I get what the artist is saying. I don't know. That doesn't really bother me. Because if it wasn't the statement of make this more TikTok-y, 10 years ago would have been make this more jiggy or make it more radio friendly. 20 years before that would have been make this a party record, you know, whatever. So we're dealing with the same stuff time and time again. I don't look at the current social media landscape as something that creates this problem. I look at it as something that's already been around and isn't necessarily a problem. And the difference is today I can make a living licensing beats online, and I couldn't do that 25 years ago, but I still dealt with the other shit. So I look at it as a net positive. But again, Aaron, that's my experience. I'm speaking from first person. I'm not saying all producers are winning now. There are people who are stressed out. There are people who can't figure it out. The content game isn't for everybody. It's not the only way to win.
I think there are a shitload of artists that are in this boat, and that's the way this music stuff is. Like, there's just a shitload of artists that want to be artists. So when you have this crowded space, like, this is the environment that we're in. So this is a game that a lot of people are probably frustrated and depressed. My brother has expressed his frustrations with having to be on social media because they don't want to be doing that. They want to just make the music, but this is a part of it. Just like, you know, 20, 25 years ago, a part of it was selling CDs at the mall or out the back of your trunk or popping up at ciphers or on the corner or waiting outside the record label. There's a lot of shit that you just don't want to do that's part of this because it's a very high demand career. But I could easily write just as much and talk about how cool the industry is today. You know, being able to just have access to thousands and thousands, millions of beats on BeatStars, download a beat real quick, be able to record a song right from my bedroom, put it out on the same platform that Drake uses to get his music out to potentially build a career. So I could probably write 5 times as much as what he did in this tweet about how positive the music industry is and how much access young people have today to try to have a career in this industry. So I think it's just all about perspective, because there's no putting the genie back in this bottle, right? Like, attention spans aren't just going to overnight get longer. You know, you have to figure out how to survive in the environment that we are in, right? So the only thing that I think that you can do to combat this is build community, right? Like, having a loyal community allows you to move however you want. And we've talked about that all the time. Like, if you've gotten to a point where you've built a community, you can kind of step away and then come back because they're still going to be there because you've built this community over time. They know what you represent. You have shared interests, shared principles, you know, a shared connection with a community of people. And a lot of artists can do that, but you have to build that community first. And to me, that's the only answer to not having to be as present as you want to be and just doing what you want to do, you know, but it's hard to do. But I see that as the only answer, or to get comfortable, you know, having some structure and getting comfortable making the post that you need to post, you know, maybe setting some time for self-care and things like that, go to therapy, you know, just to keep, you know, just to keep your head, you know, physically, mentally in the space. But yeah, this is the game we're playing today. And I don't see it changing anytime soon outside of building
I feel like
community.
artists talk about the downsides of this industry as if there are no downsides to other industries. You know what I'm saying? It's like, regardless of, and we talked about that a while ago, like if you choose to have a wife and kids and you can't give as much time to your career and you therefore can't take off, it's like, that's a choice. You chose to be an artist and you chose that this is your path to make money. So you have to treat it like a business. Business requires sacrifice. Greatness requires sacrifice. And if it's robbing you of healthy, like mental space that much, it's time to change something. Last year, I keep talking about this. I was in the worst place ever. I was not making enough money. I was frustrated with what I was doing. And I had a high demand to reach. And I was like, if everybody else is happy and I'm not, then what's the point? So I took a long time it took me 6 months to rearrange my life, figure out what to prioritize and what I was going to participate in. There's certain things that is considered industry standard that I personally don't do. And I still make money. You know what I'm saying? But it's because, like you said, I built the community. I figured out a way to make it work for me. I think I'm with Pain. I'm cool with anybody airing their grievance. Like, get that off your chest, but don't act like somebody forced you into this. Like, it's like, it makes it sound like he's saying, like, I have to do TikTok and I have to do Instagram. You don't have to. You just have not built out your career enough to be able to assess. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm great at touring and I can tour, but I don't have to tour now because I figured out how to make money sitting in my living room. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things that I'm good at that people want me to do, and I realize it's not what I want to do. So people got to sit down and say, like, what is it that I want? If you never want to post on TikTok, you got to figure out a way to make money. If you never want to make a beat for TikTok, figure it out, but don't blame the game for what you're experiencing. And this is not to sound insensitive, but you will not ever grow if the only thing that you see is the downsides to the benefits that you're experiencing. Like, you have people asking you and paying you for beats, and you found a way to complain about that. It's like you could have spent that energy creating a solution for yourself. Because this isn't like, oh, I have a barrier or I have an issue with people in the industry treating people like this or doing this thing. You're talking about a technology company that made themselves a necessity. But the artist, you're an artist. Art is always necessary. So, like, make yourself more necessary. And I think that's something, there's too many artists who just want to be an artist. If you just want to be an artist, you're not going to make a living.
And plus, TikTok's probably not going to be the driving force in music 5 years from now. It's going to be something else. Same with YouTube. I mean, were people complaining about YouTube? Probably. People were complaining about MySpace. People were complaining about LimeWire. But point taken, Aaron, especially given that look, I went to school to become a teacher, right? If I had stayed on that path rather than pursuing music and going through all the horrible stress of making beats every day and uploading beats, you know where I would be right now, especially when COVID hit? There were so many horrible blows to the teaching profession. I don't know if I would have survived. And I talk about the music business like I've survived some shit, and I have, but is that the same as retrofitting your entire curriculum to Zoom because there's a national pandemic? Or is this even close to what nurses are going through? They're getting sick, they're dying, they're seeing death every day. I'm grateful that I make beats. Whatever stress comes with making beats, cool. I love it. I can't think of doing anything else. So if you notice, my Instagram is like all gratitude posts. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I just hope this is not a situation, because I've known artists, I've worked with artists that make like posts for sympathy, right? Like, because that seems to get engaged. And now that I'm thinking about that, I'm kind of mad that we talked about this, because and I'm not saying this is it with this cat. He might be really going through this, but because I even know artists that make sad songs because they think that's what's winning right now. And I'm like, bro, why are you always making sad songs? I was like, and they're like, oh, I'm not even sad. I just make them because they're winning. I think that's pretty terrible. But with anything that we do, you can't cut out the work, right? I can't be like, oh, I want to go to the league, but this practice stuff, man, I'm not really with that. I want to be a lawyer, but that law school shit, man, that it has books. The books are thick. There's not that many pictures in them. Like I'm cool on that. Like we there's gonna be work that goes with everything, and with music, like this is the work, right? You have to be intentional on building community so you can have the flexibility or find other revenue streams, right? Like in sync. There's other revenue streams in the music industry that don't require, because you want, obviously this person wants to tour, they want the fans, if that's what you want, then this is what comes with it. But so yeah, we don't need to keep going on this topic. Payne, did you want to
Yeah, breaking news. Lindsay Lohan, her name has been mispronounced this entire time. It's actually Lohan. That's my topic.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's one of my topics. The other topic
I've heard that.
Okay, Aaron's always ahead of the game. That's amazing. I used to
be a huge fan of her, and I would hear her mom say it because she had a TV show, and her mom would say Lohan, and I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, so she's really been done a disservice all this time, and
she could have just corrected us, right? Like anybody that she could have told us this a long time
Well, she
ago.
was saving it. She's like Kanye. She's focused on the long game. She saved it for her TikTok debut. So now we're talking about it. Anyway, have you seen it's a short clip from a Benny the Butcher interview where I think the caption is, "You can't afford to rap over a mediocre beat."
No.
So it's, and I'm so sorry that I don't know the radio show that he was on, but it's Benny the Butcher kind of getting into the music business education space in a way. And what he said was, you can't afford to rap over a mediocre beat just because your cousin made it. You can't afford to shoot a video with a dude just because it was $100. And basically he's saying, take your career seriously as a business. And I look at what he's saying as a message to people whose minds are already activated. This was a big mistake I made when I first started making YouTube content, and I still make it. I might say something that's a little too far into my experience in the music business, and then it's completely misunderstood because people haven't experienced that yet. I think the vast majority of all people, just like the vast majority of all songs on Spotify don't get any plays or don't generate any money, the vast majority of all people making music have no real music business experience. They're just kind of at the starting line, just waiting. Very few people are really like deep in the race. And if you're already kind of confused about the music business, or you're non-committal, or you really haven't educated yourself, you may completely misinterpret what he's saying or what anybody's, even what we're saying. And so like, I can see people watching the Benny the Butcher video and thinking, okay, this means I need an Alchemist beat for my project to be successful, or I need a No More Heroes music video, or I need an Alex Toomey on the mix. I need money to succeed because Benny the Butcher said so. And then either they make a bad decision, or they just are paralyzed because they don't have those things. And I would bet money that that's not at all what he meant. I think he just meant take yourself seriously as a business and invest in yourself as an artist, and force yourself to get past that initial fear of investing in yourself, because you really have to. You have to get past that. Like, I was afraid to get a new laptop one year because I needed to cross over to Serato when that started. And my friend Tina was like, do it. I promise you will make money off of it. It will pay for itself. And it did within like a month. So if I had never done that, I would have just remained stagnant and my DJ career wouldn't have gone anywhere. And it's every business, every traditional business owner does that. Like if you're an accountant and you start a tax service, you need to invest in marketing the tax service. You need to invest in a dedicated phone line, probably a website, commercials and traditional media, maybe a brick and mortar office space. Like these are things that we look at and say, yeah, of course that's a given, but we look at our music careers very differently often. And you really do see producers or songwriters or whatever just making music occasionally and then crossing their fingers and hoping that someone gives them a break. And you even hear that in 2022, which is crazy, after we've been bombarded for years since like Master P. We've been bombarded by this whole do it yourself, be your own boss, independent messaging. To this day, people are like, yeah, I just want to make music and someone's going to pick me up because I'm talented. And it's just not it's not how business works. And I would say that if you are the 1% of artists who do get picked up based on talent alone, you're probably going to have a terrible experience because you're going to be an easy target. Because like a person with no previous experience, no existing fan base, no good team around you to know the landscape, you probably don't even know your own value, let alone the intricacies of the business. So anyone, whether it's a label or management, they can come through and give you a lowball deal and you don't know what's good, what's not. You might take it, and then 5 years down the line, when you actually have that experience, you realize, oh, wow, I made a big mistake. So I like what Benny's saying. I just want to add my own 2 cents to it so it doesn't appear out of context.
Yeah. I mean, I receive what he's saying. You know, you have to make it work with what you have initially, right? But as you grow, you know, you have to invest in your career and things have to get better over time. Like even your fans are going to get bored of watching the same shit over and over again. Everything has to level up. Like the graphics have to get better. The videos have to, like the expectation is that fans want to be part of your journey of success. They're not going to sit there and watch the same thing year after year after year. And they're just going to be like, man, this dude's not moving anymore. You know, and they might hop off the train. But you know, and if you start out using the homies beats and that's working for now, but the homies aren't leveling up, you're going to eventually have to get some better beats, a different sound, some people that are evolving with the times. So you're going to have to go outside of the team if they're not leveling up the way you're progressing. So that's how I see it. I don't want people to get discouraged and be like, man, I don't have that now, so I'm just not going to make any song. You have to make songs with what you have access to. And then over time, just reinvest, basically bootstrap your career, you know, just keep reinvesting and getting better. It's the same with Big Ja. Like if you look at his videos from 3 years ago, you know, shot on a terrible camera, terrible quality. And now, you know, he's shooting stuff that looks like it should be on TV, right? Like we need to see that growth. His fans want to be part of the journey. And if the journey's not heading anywhere, you know, like I said, they're probably going to hop off the train.
So here's what's important about the Big Ja example, though. So he was creating content, as you said, not the best quality content in terms of how it was presented, but in terms of him as a comedian, it was always solid and people responded well to it. And he was seeing the fans respond positively to it. That's important. Because I feel like there is such thing as too much initial investment. Like there are people whose first song, you know, they're spending $20,000 on. You're like, why? It's your first song. Just you have no data. Start releasing music with what you have and see what people like, because they might not like your music at all. And then what happens? You just spent $20,000 on a music video that no one cares about, and you have to do that because you set the precedent for yourself. Now you have to do that every single time. Well,
you don't necessarily have to do it but it goes back to the Ghastly post that we talked about, right? If we know that the environment is more content that you have to spread over a longer period of time, and you only have 20,000, like why would you take one shot with that, right? You would hopefully take the money that you have and put together a very long-term strategy so that you could be consistent with the content. You know, so that doesn't even go with the time. I've saved a lot of artists money that have come to me and that were about to spend $10,000 on a music video. And I was just like, no, spend 500 on 20 music videos. Like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, even producers will come to me and say, you know, I have $1,000 saved up. I want to spend it on ads this month. I'm like, but have you really even been selling beats yet? You don't need to do that at this point. You need the data first. You need to figure out who your audience is first. You need to really be there are a million ways to operate on a very low budget for a long time and gain traction. You may hit a ceiling, like Dame was saying, you may hit a certain ceiling at a point where you've done all you can with the resources you have, and now your fans expect and deserve better from you, and they want to see that evolution. Cool, evolve, but don't.
And evolve doesn't necessarily mean you need money now, right? Like, you could learn a new skill, or hop on Canva and make your graphics better,
or work with new people,
or get a different idea with different content. So I hate when people use the money excuse. That gets on my nerves when people come to me with that.
Well, I just think bringing up money it becomes problematic.
I think, though, I have to say this. I think a mediocre beat is subjective. And because I feel I just was tweeting about Benny the Butcher. I'm a fan, like the whole Griselda squad, but they got mediocre beats. Like, so I think there's a couple songs that I can think of right now that I would consider mediocre beats. I think that's a weird statement, because I know that there's, like, especially like when Lil Baby first came out, his beats were trash and he blew up. So I think that's all subjective. I think you should spend money appropriately, but I don't think, and I get what he's saying. I think you should spend money on the beat over getting that chain that you're thinking about if you could get some higher quality music. But what is a mediocre beat? Like, what does that even mean?
Right. Yeah. Nah, I mean, there are songs that come out with sounds like, people just banging on the table at the lunchroom, like.
Just when Aaron gets the Crypto Bros offer back, she paints a whole new target. Now she's got the Griselda fans.
Listen, but there's nobody who's gonna say. And again, I'm really and truly, I think Benny the Butcher is a street prophet, but I just don't. And I think that if the art is so subjective, how could you make a definitive statement like that? Do you know what I'm saying? Am I tripping?
I feel like there are some beats that are just not viable, I'll say. Not necessarily bad, but just that one's not going to work.
That made me not rap that well. I've heard Tierra Whack go over like literally nothing on a track, and I got chills. Do you know what I'm saying? I listen to the rappers like, because she's just so innovative. It almost doesn't matter because she can go anywhere. So I don't know. I don't necessarily believe in mediocre tracks / not believe in media. I've heard terrible tracks, but mediocre, I think that's super subjective.
So they can be terrible, but not mediocre.
Yeah, I think anybody can be like, this shit is horrible, like, especially if it's distorted and mixed bad. But mediocre, it's like Migos, for half of culture is mediocre beats. And that's like their bigger our culture too. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Future has a ton of mediocre beats, a ton, and he's still floating.
Yeah, I mean,
we're all scared of this topic.
No, I would agree with that. I don't know these. I don't listen to that much music, to be honest with you. I think, J. Cole,
that nigga has KOD.
What?
Full of media. You see what I'm saying? It's subjective.
It is. You're right.
Is mostly mediocre beats.
I would say even like, even Russ's beats are very simple. Yes. Like they're very simple beat. They work for him, but I don't know if mediocre is. I think simple is he has a very simple And I think his range as a producer is limited. And that's why he eventually started working with other producers. I think he had to do that because his range as a producer, at least at this point, it sounds limited. So I think for him to evolve as an artist, you know, he had to let other people in on the production guys, because when he first started, obviously it was all about, I do this, I mix, I master, I shoot my own videos, I direct them, I edit them, you know, and part of him evolving as an artist was, you know, maybe understanding that he needed to bring other producers in. Because I've seen he's worked with Illmind, he's worked with Scott Storch, he's worked with a lot of producers now.
DJ Payne 1.
There you go. DJ Payne 1. But yeah.
Okay, we have to bring up this. I know we're ending, but Payne, congrats on the platinum. I feel like you slightly mentioned it last time, and I saw it online. But like you deserve a moment to celebrate. That's super, super, super tight.
Payne got plaques. DJ Plaque Payne.
I gotta get the plaque for this new one. But yeah, that's gonna feel good, especially given what I and the others involved went through. So I'm proud of it. Thank you, Aaron.
Dope. A shout out LaRussell for the sweatshirt. LaRussell was a dope guest on the MEC. He's continuing to do his thing and stack his wins. So shout out for the sweatshirt. If anybody else wants to send us merch to wear, it has to be dope. So
it can't be mediocre. We don't want mediocre.
We don't want mediocre merch
at all. I like the puff print joint. I got a puff print on right now that says every ATLian is a star.
Nice.
Somebody sent me this
puff
too.
print.
Black Forever. Oh yeah, you got a puff print?
Yeah, I feel like puff print went out of fashion for a little while. I don't know why. I could just sit here. I'm a weirdo. I could just sit here and do this all day.
I'm the same. I love it. I'm the same.
I don't even know what y'all talking about. Puff print, but
yeah.
You just got to experience. Someone send some puff print, please.
Oh, okay.
It's just
We're about to do
has
some more
geography.
Dames and puff print. I'll send it to you, Dame.
Okay, cool.
All right. I know you got to leave. So let's close out. Appreciate everyone tuning in. This has been the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. We're live twice a week, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Mondays and Thursdays on beatstars.live, which is the website, www.beatstars.live. And you can text us to get alerted every time we go live in case you need a reminder. Dame, let them know how.
All you got to do is text MEC to 844-206-7800. You'll get an alert right before we go live. If you're listening to this podcast the day it comes out on Monday, today we have an artist named Stocks joining us, and he too is in the NFT crypto space. So we're going to continue to talk about these things because they're real opportunities for people that are able to put in the work and figure it out. So rock with us.
Appreciate you tuning in, everyone. Peace.
Peace.